Welcome back to Simple Truths. I'm Andy. As promised last week, I brought a really fantastic bestest friend of mine, Summer, back to talk about one of our favorite topics. Now, you guys don't get to hear our talks off air around here. There's all kinds of talks. There's the Robbie talks. There's the Mark Hansen talks. There's the Mel McGinnis talks, which we're not going to talk about because usually those talks we're just not going to talk about it. There are all kinds of talks that happen down here, right? But one of the talks that frequently is around here is about love, Summer, and about how we should do that, and about what it looks like and what it doesn't look like, right? And I think, I want to believe that we've created an atmosphere in Drash Ministries where people know that they're loved. Mm-hmm. But it is not a Valentine's Day love. No. Right? It's not a mushy, gushy, I want to be around you all the time. I want you to know that I couldn't live or breathe 1 second without you. That type of a love.
The grown-ups call it romantic love.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The grown-ups call it romantic love. That's not what I call it, so that pretty much establishes where I am in this whole chain. Right? So there is that difference, right? And then there's what I call the non-Valentine's Day love, right? It's the real love of God coming through in real situations, right? And you and I have not only seen that, right, but we've experienced that. We have some kind of a little bit of a grasp on that. I think it's a very hard thing to get a whole grasp on because it's all around is Valentine's Day, and all around is the little Smarties and the sweet tarts and the things like that that make Valentine's make your heart go right, which sounds a little more like Tarzan than it does real love, right? We really want it to come across, as what God feels and what God sees. Mm-hmm. So I brought you on this little quest with me, and I want to go to Ruth. Right? I almost said Romans because it's another R book, but Ruth, right? Now, you like the story of Ruth.
I do. I love it.
That's right. So normally, ladies and gentlemen, Summer, you ask her a question and she can talk. But today, she's very short on answers, right? So we're going to, one more time, let's try that. So Summer, you look into the book of Ruth a lot. What do you like about the book of Ruth?
Oh, there you go. An open-ended question.
There we go.
Yeah. No, I love Ruth because I think people see it wrong. I think people see Ruth and Naomi as this great friendship, and that's not what I see. I see Ruth being very selfless and sacrificing everything to just love Naomi. Mm-hmm. And then I see God rewarding her for that because she literally gives up everything in herself and her life to just take care of somebody else that she has no obligation to really at that point.
All right, great. So it's fantastic because I would actually, after Summer was presenting that, I actually agree with her. Actually, if you really do your research, you know that Naomi is more of the selfish one, right? It's oh, woe is me, selfish, which makes selfless look really, really good, which is Ruth. She looks great in this whole thing, right? In the midst of all of this stuff, she meets Boaz, mm-hmm. right? Now, Boaz is a relative, right? Mm-hmm. And Naomi says, hey, maybe you should go to the fields and you should, collect some grain here. Boaz sees her collecting, and he has already heard the story of her kindness to Naomi, and he rewards her by, hey, I'm not gonna take all of it. You can collect here. You can get more grain than you normally would. All of those kind of things, right? He treats her with great kindness, right? Out of the midst of that, I love this because it goes with what we were just talking about the last couple of weeks with Hosea. This brain trust idea comes into somebody's head that's way outside the norm, right? Naomi says to Ruth, hey, I got a great idea. Why don't you go and just lay down at the feet of Boaz? Right? Why don't you he's been kind to you, he's been nice to you. Why don't you just go lay down at the feet of him? Now, Ruth isn't from Israel. She doesn't know the traditions. She's from Moab. What do you think she thought about going and laying down at the feet of a man?
I mean, at this point, she's done a lot of weird things, and she's probably just she went to a place where she was not going to be looked kindly upon, and, it's, I don't know, she was probably like, that's really weird, but once again, she was just obedient, So
She was, right? So I want you to I want you to read for me, right? Starting with verse 4. Read 4 and 5 for me right now.
in 3?
In chapter 3, sorry.
All right. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies, then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. And she replied, all that you say, I will do.
Right, so here's the gist of the plan, right? Hey, pay attention to him. When he's done eating, notice where he goes and lies down. Now, again, that's a pretty significant detail because there's a bunch of men eating together, right? And what if she gets the wrong guy? Right? Like, this could be a real problem. So, hey, pay attention to where he lies down.
Right.
Then go to where he's laying down, uncover his feet, right? Which would not sit well in my world. I don't want you to touch my feet or go anywhere near them, right? Uncover his feet and then lie down next to his wonderful feet, right? That probably smell really good and do that, right? So, and this brain trust idea, Ruth comes up with a really novel little phrase, right? All that you say, I will do. Right? Mm-hmm. Do you know that sometimes non-Valentine love, right? It's about really being willing to do all that God asks us to do, right? That there's being all that we can be for someone else. Most of the time, because love is a feeling, we're only willing to do what we feel like we want to do. So Valentine's Day for a lot of people has been about doing what they feel they want to do. They got their spouse, their significant other, exactly what they felt like they wanted to give them. But real love is about giving somebody everything, right, of you, doing it all, whether you feel like it or not, isn't it?
Great personal cost.
A great personal cost,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So we look at this and we say, this is Ruth, right? She's living out what she said to Naomi early on, which is, I'm going to go do this with you, man. I'm going to do it. Life's going to be this way. Pretty simple. Your people are my people. Your place is my place. Well, where you go, I'm going to go, right? Like, this is the deal. This is how we're going to define love. And then she's living it out. Everything that Naomi told her to do, she says, I'm going to do that, right? Can you imagine if we did that for God?
Yeah. Like, I think it would look like this. I mean, look at all these stories. There's way more stories in here of crazy people doing crazy things. Or not crazy people, but God asking crazy things of people and them just being crazy enough to do it. And then, like, they get crazy rewards. Like grandparents of David and wife of David and all these things, right? Like, so, yeah, I can imagine it. I think it's pretty awesome.
So we look at people, and rather than saying to them, I'm going to give you what I feel like giving you, we look at people and saying, no, I'm going to give you all that I can give you.
Yep.
Those two things are totally different.
Yeah.
Right? But they make a big difference in the relationship, because I want you to read the rest of this 6 through 13 for me.
So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight the man was startled, it's so weird, and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. He said, Who are you? And she answered, I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer. And he said, May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, for all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman. And now it is true that I am a redeemer, yet there is a redeemer nearer than I. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good, let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until the morning.
Okay, so we look at this love in action, right? And there's some pretty funny parts in this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that she does all that her mother-in-law, Naomi, asked her to do, right? But I love the part that God just puts in these details, because Boaz eats and he drinks and he's merry, right?
Right.
He's in a good place in life and he goes to bed. And isn't it funny that in that state, God shows up,
Yeah.
right? God blesses and shows up in just the weirdest of moments.
Well, you can look at it from his side too. Like he was already taking care of her, right? Like he was letting her. He told his people to leave her alone when she was like, doing her thing in the fields. He said like, no, let her do this.
Yeah.
So maybe God was also rewarding him.
And again, it looks like God's rewarding both sides, right? Both sides have been faithful. Both sides have been real and have been true. And God says, hey, you know what? Let's put this together, right? In a non-Valentine's Day love, right? None of this is mushy-gushy. So again, Ruth doesn't look out over the field and see the strong, strapping, wonderful, grizzly, right? All kinds of facial hair guy from half a mile away and do the slow motion run to him, with the chariots of fire type of thing.
Oh my
and
gosh.
they jump into each other's arms, and it's not any of that, right? This is a real love, right? And a real respect for each other.
Right.
She goes, does what her mother-in-law says in a really weird way. Like she picks up her man by laying at his bare feet, right? He picks up his woman who's laying at his bare feet, and he turns over and goes, whoa, 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 what is this? Like this is not supposed to be at my feet. Right? So again, my question to you is sometimes real love, it comes in not only unexpected places, but also unexpected ways. So how do we prepare ourselves, Summer, for that? Because can you imagine if Boaz is a typical guy, he rolls over, kicks Ruth with his feet, and never wakes up?
How do we prepare ourselves for that? I don't know that you can, like, really prepare yourself for that. You just have to trust God, I guess, all the time. I think if you're just in the habit of trusting God, then when weird stuff happens, like you're looking for him in it.
Yeah.
Like instead of just I hear people say all the time like, oh, I can't hear from God, I don't hear from God, I don't hear from God. And sometimes we're on the outside like, hello, it's all right here, like right in front of your face. And I think that's because we're not in the habit of like listening and trusting him. So I think if you're paying attention to him all the time, like you can see stuff a lot more easily when he lays it at your feet.
So sometimes we're paying attention, we're in tune, and we can see what God has a mile away from us, right? But sometimes we're in tune with God and we literally turn over in the middle of the night and we bump into it, right? Like we get those moments. The problem is both ways. You have to be paying attention and in tune with God. Otherwise, you're just going to kick it and fall back to sleep. You're going to miss out. And if we also predetermine what kind of love God's is, right, then we're also going to be like, well, this isn't the way it works. This isn't how we should be loving. This isn't who we should be loving, right? But Boaz, he embraces it. So what I love about Unvalentine's love is both sides embraced what they were told, what they experienced, right? Naomi told Ruth what to do. She embraced it. I'll do it. Just whatever you say, I'll do it. And then says she went and did it. Boaz rolls over in the middle of the night and embraces what was before him, what was at his feet, what he needed to do, right? And both of that, out of that, when both people embrace, right, where they are and what God has for them, out of that comes a real love, right? Because Boaz makes the announcement when he says, all my men know, everybody knows you are worthy.
Right.
What an incredible Valentine's Day love that should be, right? Where we look at another person and we say, you are worthy. You're worthy of being loved.
Yeah.
That's another very short answer.
No, I agree. I think that a lot of the ways that we end up feeling God's love is when it just out of straight obedience, like a parent and a child. Like I think we look for God's love the wrong way, just like we look from people for it the wrong way. You know, like I think we just totally misunderstand love and entirely what it is. And which is why most people just think, oh, Ruth and Naomi, they're such good friends. I'm like, no, like, I don't see that at all. I just don't. And I think really there's a totally different thing that comes out of like wanting to please your father and wanting to obey him, and then loving him enough to take the risk and doing it all the time. And then there's no better feeling than when he rewards you for that.
Yeah.
And that's love both ways. That's what love is. That's what real love is. So yeah, if two people do that and in conjunction with each other, I mean, that should be the best Valentine thing ever. Right?
Absolutely. It makes sense to me. Well, listen, I've stolen a lot of Summer's time the last few weeks, and it's valuable time. And so I want to make sure that we wrap this thing up. So here's what my simple truth really is for you. I pray and I hope that you roll over, right, at some point and you run smack into God's love for you. Because Summer's right. There's no doubt that Ruth was a present to Boaz, and Boaz was a gift and a present to Ruth, right? They that's how it worked. But Boaz had to roll over in the middle of the night and accept it, right? Real love comes out of the moments where we just accept what is. Quit wanting what could be, quit wanting and worrying about what has been. Well, we just worry about what is. And then we're going to really see God's real love come forward. So I pray that you would have the ability to see those moments and embrace them.